Hey everyone, hope you guys are enjoying Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak in whichever platform you're choosing to play it on. And today I'm going to have a little bit of a discussion topic, so do let me know in the comments what it is that you guys think regarding the latest edition of Primordial Malzeno as the latest flagship monster in the bonus/6th free title update. Since surprisingly enough, it turned out to be that Primordial Malzeno was the hero of the story all along. And it, funny enough, just turns out to be that he's actually the kingdom's knight, and not you, the hunter from Komura village, who not only saved your little backwards hick town from where you came from, but also decided to save a kingdom all at once. No. You're not the hero of the story. Primordial Malzeno is, which I found extremely funny to see. Now, there's going to be a lot of lore aspects that I want to go over, mostly because so much lore dump kind of gets tossed as you're not even heading into the fight, just talking to the NPCs before you even begin to take on any sort of quest and any of the cutscenes that take place therefore after. When you begin to kind of load into the patch, and one of the things that you'll notice is that you'll see Bahari and Gallius talking with Fiorane, and they talk about how this brand new Primordial Malzeno is free of the Curio. This one is not afflicted by the Curio at all, which is of course something that we kind of already knew. But more importantly, they mentioned that this is a different Malzeno. This is not the same Malzeno. This is not. I suggested originally maybe that what they were going to try to do with Primordial Malzeno, although it is considered a variant, and this is something that they say pretty much early on. They don't think is the same Malzeno, and in the same vein of like Scorn Magnamalo, where that Scorn Magnamalo is essentially the original Magnamalo you fought, kind of kicked his ass, it came back, and that kind of a thing. This one is not that at all. This Primordial Malzeno is one that was never been afflicted by the Curio at all, and it's kind of like a badass all on his own, which is interestingly enough, since, if you already saw my previous video on the Hazard Quest, it kind of just basically comes back and gets butt kicked and ends up getting killed by you, the hunter, which is really funny indeed. They do specifically also mention that this Primordial Malzeno felt like it traveled through time, through the primordial area to the present, kind of like to go up against Geismagorm. It never really felt like it was like a part of the entire ordeal that happened heading into the story. It just became his kind of very own thing. One of the things that they also allude before you even get started into the quest itself, which is a fantastic quest, the way that they did, especially the music. If you didn't pick up on the music, the way that they handle the music in that quest is so specifically done, especially as you make your way into the fight. I thought that was a really nice touch. They do mention that, of course, the Cavaliers were chasing after this Primordial Malzeno. It wasn't Amatsu at the end of the day. And one of the things that they talk about is this lore aspect of this lullaby, the Archdemon of the Abyss, where essentially this Primordial Malzeno has the power to actually take down Geismagorm, which is a really interesting way to look at it, because it has not been corrupted. Geismagorm has been corrupted. It doesn't need the Curio. It chooses to use them. And this demon lord, essentially Primordial Malzeno, is viewed as that. At the very least, that's the picture that they paint originally before you end up doing the quest. They call it the Silver Spear, and that is what they consider. That's what they consider this Primordial Malzeno to be, the Silver Spear of Geismagorm. But of course, as you make your way through the quest in and of itself, it begins to paint a little bit of a different picture. Now, I did really appreciate all the kind of like the scriptures that they give it as you begin to talk to different characters around town. If you speak to Tsushi, if you speak to Chiche, they all kind of give their own original take for what the quest is going to provide, especially the Cavaliers, Selva, and I believe even Paz as well, and even the Arena Master Arlo also have a couple of descriptors as well for Primordial Malzeno. You should have been seeing those kind of like make their way through there as well. Even Fiorane has her own description for Primordial Malzeno there. Then of course you jump into the quest itself. You get a brand new cutscene and introduction for Primordial Malzeno, and you see that the Curio are trying to get around it, but it basically has no issue pushing them back. It begins to fight them off. It really isn't interested in messing with them in the least, and this thing is not really interested in being taken over by any little curious bugs. One of the things you will notice as you're doing the quest, especially since Fiorine will be an assisted follower in this quest, interestingly enough, no different than Geistmagorn when you fought it originally, and a couple of other monsters as well. You'll notice her making random quotes as you're fighting, and she'll randomly drop like hints of things that she's picking up on, especially when you begin to see that fight kind of like develop a little bit. You see it power up for the very first time. I spoke about how it has three different stages of power. The way that they describe it in the like lore, they mentioned that it has the bloodening state. That is the first power up that it does. That is basically when you see it grow a beard, it's a little bit pinkish. The paws in the front get pinkish. The wings begin to with the red glow. Then it has the blood rage mode. That is when it begins to get more powerful. That is the second stage. And ultimately when it turns orange and it begins to do its final attack, that is the bloodlust mode. That is the final stage that it ends up having. And as it's going through those stages, you're gonna notice Fiorine kind of like make references to, oh my goodness, I think it might actually not be in full control. Oh, it might actually not be fighting off the Curios, and it might be trying to get rid of them at the end of the day. And funny enough, once you finish the quest and you do get a quest completion, she says that something is off. Let's go after it. And you notice instead of you being able to kill Primordial Malzeno, it will fly up in the air and just literally fly back into the little church area, the castle itself, being followed by the Curio. At that point in time, as you set foot into that arena, you begin to see the final cutscene where Fiorine kind of realizes that this Primordial Malzeno is something off. It was never interested in fighting you in the first place. You decided to pick a fight with it, and the Curios are the one that is after. The Curios are after it. It's not going to allow the Curios to take over it, so therefore it's ready to fight it. They do cut away, which is a little bit of a cop out from Capcom's end, that the second that Fiorine says they're going to charge him forward, and you see your character get ready to go fight the Curios and help Primordial Malzeno. They do cut away from that and never actually show you fighting it, which is, obviously work on the developers' end to go ahead and do that. But of course, at the end of the day, they didn't want to do all that legwork to be able to do that. And then you see kind of Primordial Malzeno standing there. Curios are dead, or at the very least, most of them are. Your Hunter and Fiorine are just kind of standing there. They kind of nod at each other a little bit, which is really funny. Monsters will not do that. Normal monsters will not do it. This is an Elder Dragon, by the way. Let me remind you guys, Elder Dragons kill people. That is just the lore of Capcom. That is just the way that it works. And then it just decides to fly away. Fiorine just kind of lets it go, calls it the kingdom's protector, the kingdom's knight, even though you basically did all the saving, all the world, all the hurt, all the pain that you have been going through, all the work completely gets disregarded as you stand there, and Fiorine just basically calls it the knight and the protector of the kingdom. And then they cut away to Primordial Malzeno kind of flying away into the ocean, just kind of flying away, ready to do his thing, which again, this is why I alluded to before. It was just kind of funny to me at the end of the day, since it does decide to come back, become Hazard, and then you end up killing it in the Forlorn Arena. So really just kind of doesn't necessarily serve its purpose lore wise what they chose to do with that, but I did find it very funny. They do end up closing out everything as Bahari, the scientist, Gallius, even Dame Fiorine talks a little bit, and a couple of other people. They end up kind of Arlo, and even the scientist, the doctor, and they all end up giving their own fair share and take on essentially what Primordial Malzeno was. And they basically say, yeah, it's not really his fault. It was just ready to defend itself against the Curio. The Curios were the bad ones all along. It's Geistmagorn's fault, since it basically allowed itself to get taken over by the Curio. And pretty much it was the true hero that we needed all along. You, the Hunter, not so much. Although Gallius does praise you a little bit, and it does say thank you for saving us for the kingdoms and all of that. The queen will give you a letter and all these things, but of course you never see any of that, which is a little bit funny. But that's pretty much the conclusion of the story and the lore aspects for the game, which for what it's worth, I did appreciate that they spent a lot of time like providing lore for Primordial Malzeno. There is that contrast that for Amatsu, I saw a couple of you guys comment let me know in the comments, but I kind of already spoke about that before, where Mod 2 was the completion of the Komura village arc of the story, and Primordial Malzeno is the completion of the kingdoms side of things. Now, whether the next game, whatever again the next mainline game is, takes you to the kingdom itself and you're fighting and defending the kingdom, I would love to see that. I would love them to take that little bit of a route and let us see just what the kingdom is all about. I would love to actually see that full aspect of the story in that regard. But that's about all the information that I wanted to cover regarding Primordial Malzeno. I do think it changes everything. It does give you a little bit of a glimpse that, you know, not all monsters are bad according to Capcom's lore now, but some of them are actually protectors of whatever, even though they're still monsters and hunters are going to kill monsters. Therefore, that one is not really all that good, and you end up killing. And the second that it oversteps its boundaries and becomes hazard, you end up killing it regardless. So it really wasn't good all along. The duality of the story aspects of that are hilarious to me, but funny nonetheless. If you're brand new to my channel, though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.